We have not cut Medicaid, and we have not cut SNAP.
The math doesn't add up. It will explode the debt. Josh Hawley has been arguing it is morally wrong and politically suicidal to slash health insurance for the working poor.
I really wanted to cover Mike Johnson on Face the Nation, further discussing this big, beautiful bill that is really set to just make America an ugly place. So leave us a like if you can on the video. It helps us out tremendously. It boosts us in the algorithm. And let's get right into the discourse.
We did hear from some of your Republican colleagues over in the Senate, where this heads next, that they can't support the bill as it is written. I think you know this. Senator Rand Paul said the cuts are wimpy and anemic. The math doesn't add up. It will explode the debt. In addition to that political criticism, you've already seen Moody's credit rating agency downgrade American credit, and Goldman Sachs says that this bill will not offset the damage from the president's tariffs. Isn't this an economic gamble?
No, it's not an economic gamble. It's a big investment. And look, what this bill is going to do is be jet fuel to the U.S. economy. It's going to foster a pro-growth economy. What do we mean by that? Because we're reducing taxes, we're reducing regulations, we're going to increase and incentivize American manufacturing again. And the effect this will have in the economy is that entrepreneurs and risk takers and job creators will have an easier time in doing that.
I do wonder how many times these Republican clowns will say that rich guy tax cuts will trickle down and create business investment and growth, only to implement them and us physically see it not trickle down before they stop trying to sell this shit to people as gold. It's definitely not an investment. I wouldn't even call it a risk. It's a handout to the wealthiest members of society. An investment is something like the bipartisan infrastructure bill or the Inflation Reduction Act, like what Biden signed into law that created hundreds of thousands of jobs, billions of dollars of investment, and caused our manufacturing numbers to surge. We know for a fact when the wealthy get tax cuts, business investment doesn't significantly go up. After the 2017 tax cuts had actually dropped, and instead the wealthy just line their pockets largely with stock buybacks.
You are eliminating subsidized federal student loans, so the government will no longer cover the interest on debt while borrowers in school. You're eliminating $500 billion in clean energy subsidies, and you're terminating early tax breaks for electric vehicles. Alongside that, you're carrying out about $1 trillion in reductions to Medicaid and food stamps. We looked at your home state, and the projection is that nearly 200,000 Louisianans will lose their Medicaid coverage because of this. How do you defend that to your constituents?
We have not cut Medicaid, and we have not cut SNAP. What we're doing, Margaret, is working on fraud, waste, and abuse. And everyone in Louisiana and around the country understands that that's a responsibility of Congress.
What is the waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicaid? I love how it's always just these vague claims of waste and fraud that they're cutting and saving Americans without ever explaining what it is. And that's, of course, because it doesn't actually exist. And you got to love them going after student loans and students and people like that as well. Why tax the billionaires hoarding wealth and keeping it outside of economic means and not adding to the economy with it, when you can go after those going to school to get better jobs, who often become job creators, and then further scare further generations from doing it because they don't want to fall in debt and have the government going after them with the full force of the IRS, as capitalism does things like allow college prices to grow 20 times what they were in the 70s while wages largely stay the same. This bill is just diabolical. I mean, it's an attack on the middle class and their ability to amass wealth and climb the class ladder to just further enriching the wealthy.
Josh Hawley has been arguing it is morally wrong and politically suicidal to slash health insurance for the working poor. He said the cost-sharing language will force people at or just over the federal poverty level to pay as much as $35 for a medical visit, which means working people will pay more. How do you defend that? Because you know in the Senate they are going to make changes to this.
My friend Josh Hawley is a fiscal conservative, as I am. We don't want to slash benefits. And again, I make this very clear. We are not cutting Medicaid. We are not cutting SNAP. We're working in the elements of fraud, waste, and abuse. SNAP, for example, listen to the statistics. In 2024, over $11 billion in SNAP payments were erroneous. I mean, that's a number that everyone acknowledges is real. It may be much higher than that.
Louisiana is like the second largest recipient
of
food stamps in the country, sir. So
let me explain it, Margaret. Let me explain it. The the states are not properly administering this because they don't have enough skin in the game.
I couldn't find any bit of actual numbers, study, data, not even like a partisan report like done by Republicans to confirm the 11 billion in food stamp fraud. The only thing I could find was a New York Post article talking about overspending or overfunding or something like that, but no sources were linked in that. It was just kind of like a claim, it seemed. So take that as you may. The New York Post, not the most credible source either. It doesn't really pass the basic sniff test to me, though. Yearly, we spend around $115 billion in food stamps on SNAP. That would imply, his claim would imply that 10% of food stamp spending is fraudulent, but which would be a lot. Like, that would be massive. I don't think that that's happening. But even if we were to take his word on that, that's 11 billion and he's cutting 300 billion. So it still doesn't add up to like, oh, we're only cutting fraud. Like, it clearly ends up just taking food stamps from people who need it. And he just doesn't want to have to bite the bullet and say that. And it's the same with Medicaid. It clearly ends up taking it from some people who deserve it, where in my opinion, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to make the case that anyone in this country doesn't deserve health care. But if that's the hill Republicans want to die on, then I say let them. But even if you're going to make that case that, oh, you have to work, you have to this, even then it's clearly going to take it from some people who are on there. You're going to attack FEMA, right? This is clearly going to affect some people who then have to turn around and rely on these funds after a disaster, even though they probably work or benefit the economy and all of these other things, right? You're attacking these crucial programs that at different times people will rely on, regardless of their income status, their work status, anything, just because, well, we know why, right? You want more tax cuts for that seventh yacht.